Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending tonight. It is 6 o'clock, so we will get started. There are still a few people joining as we go, but definitely want to thank everyone for attending tonight, our 2021 RiverBend Annual General Meeting, albeit virtually. It's definitely the new age of Zoom, and I think over the past 18 months, we've all had a little experience with Zoom. So a couple of housekeeping notes just to before we get started. First of all, this is a virtual format as we can see today. So please bear with us. We're all a lot more up to speed on Zoom over the past year, but there are sometimes some technical challenges as we go. So definitely thank you for attending, and thank you for being with us. As you can see, we've asked everyone to be muted tonight for the ease of the presentation, and also that we'll be recording this presentation. So please keep yourself muted. As we've all learned in Zoom, any kind of noise, everyone can hear, and we're expecting over 100 people tonight to be on the call. So please keep yourself muted. There will be a question and answer period at the end of the meeting tonight. So if you have questions as you go, please feel free to type those questions into the chat. For those of you who have used Zoom before, you know how the chat feature works. For those of you who haven't used Zoom before, there's a little icon probably at the bottom of your screen that says chat. You can ask the question as you think of it, and then we'll be addressing all those questions at the end of the evening. So, and those questions can be directed at a specific panelist, or they can be asked of everyone, your choice. So again, just use the chat feature for that. As I previously mentioned, this evening is being recorded, and we'll make this recording available on the website in the coming days. We'll have to get the recording, get it all set up and put on the website. So if there's things that you wanted to check on yourself, check on what was mentioned, or if you have a neighbor who wasn't able to attend tonight, please let them know that this will be available shortly on our RiverBend website. So I see some people still joining in, which is great. So to start tonight, I just wanted to, obviously the last 18 months has been very unique, not just for this community, but unique for our staff, unique for our residents, and it's definitely impacted all of us, not just as an operational team, but it's impacted each and every resident, both personally and professionally, albeit with your social activities, albeit with your friends and family. So definitely some challenging, some unique issues that have arisen, and definitely a situation where there has been no playbook. This is not a year and a half where we could call a colleague and ask them how you handled this global pandemic when you were a manager or department head. So definitely kudos to our team for navigating through the last 18 months, being creative, finding new ways to do things, which hopefully have added to your residential experience. It's definitely had some challenges, and I think we've been successful in keeping our community safe. So thanks to all of you who have been so diligent. But it hasn't been without challenges, and we know that, and we don't know where this is going. Over the next year, we are hopeful things are going to be going back more to normal. I think with vaccinations at such a high rate, and we're seeing the province starting to open up slowly and gradually, which is great to see. Hopefully 2022 will be a more normalized year than we've seen in 2021 and 2020. So again, thank you for all attending tonight. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for being a resident at RiverBend, and we definitely appreciate your input and your feedback, which definitely goes a long way in making this a great community. So at this point, I want to introduce the speakers tonight, and we have a few individuals who will be updating you on what is taking place within their department, what has happened, what they foresee happening in the future, and how they're going to navigate in the coming years. So first off is going to be our community grounds superintendent, Jerry Hackers. He's going to be speaking to our community grounds department. Following Jerry will be Sean Greco. Sean Greco is our food and beverage manager. He'll be speaking to food and beverage and the very unique challenges that probably his department has had more than others. Definitely great also to have Toby Stoley. He is our director of housing from our new homes department. And Toby's going to be talking about the RiverBend development and the housing market in London and what's happening now. And he's got also some unique challenges on trying to build houses in a global supply chain issue, which is something that none of us would have expected. And then after Toby, we'll have our Owners Council Chair, Michael Spear. He will be speaking in regards to your Owners Council, what's been happening in the Owners Council, some changes in the Owners Council with some some residents' terms ending, and also who will be who has also just joined council for the next 3 years. And then I will be providing the fun part of the evening, the financial update. And I'll be speaking to the 2021 financial picture and where we are forecasting and where we are projecting. I will be speaking to the 2022 budget, and I'll be also talking to the 2022 fee structure. And last but not least, as I said previously, we'll be having a question and answer period, which again, we will be addressing all those questions at the end of the evening. So please use the chat feature for that. So again, that's our agenda tonight. We should be able to move things along quite quickly. And again, if you have any further questions, and even if you don't have questions tonight, please don't hesitate to reach out to one of our team members in the coming days, and we'll be happy to address any other questions that you didn't get the chance to ask tonight. So at this point, I'm going to change to move it over to Jerry Hackers. He is our community grounds superintendent, and I'm going to let Jerry speak to the community grounds. Thank you, Jerry.
Sure. We're all good. You can hear me fine? Okay, great. Thank you, Simon. Good evening and welcome. Unfortunately, we aren't able to present in person again this year. You know, I like my porch time with you folks, so I prefer it in person for sure. And I'm sure most of you are kind of tired with the Zoom meetings. I don't know about you, but my jacket's getting a little tighter too because of this COVID stuff. So anyway, the start of the 2021 season was much better than last year in our department. As some of you know, we were not allowed the year before to do our landscape operations. This year, landscaping and lawn care were permitted. We continue to operate through the various stages of reopening. We continue to follow new policies and procedures as set out over the course of this pandemic. It actually was a great time to be working outside, given all the other restrictions in place for most other occupations. We're fortunate to have somewhat of a normal year. We did have some personnel changes earlier this spring. Josh Carver, I know a lot of you have known Josh. He's been a 10-year employee. He left to pursue a career in the construction industry. So we took this opportunity to hire Matt Bartlett as a new team leader. Matt worked on the golf course a few years ago, and he knows the property well. Kent Waddell, assistant community grounds superintendent, my right hand and go-to guy, left to operate his own lawn care business. The search for his replacement was on, and in July, Matt Bailey was hired. Matt has over 10 years of experience in the landscape industry. They both are eager to produce excellent conditions in the community that you've come to have. And they're a great addition to our team. We also had several of our returning staff from previous years, which helped a lot in this transition as well. So a little bit about community operations. Sometimes the weather and employees can be a challenge. We did receive significant and timely rainfalls this year, which is great when the events take place outside of our regular Monday to Friday schedule. However, it is sometimes difficult to mow the entire community when the conditions are too wet. We tried to overcome this challenge by delaying the mowing when possible to drier days. And we used our push mowers a lot more this year too, to continue to cut while it was damp conditions. We also have some challenges with our staff on occasion. Some of them are driving too fast. for the conditions and traveling in areas that are too wet. We try to continue to train our staff to correct this behavior. Also this spring, we noticed a sea of yellow this spring on the lawns. The dreaded dandelion. We tried to tackle this problem head on with our weed spray program. We had one of our technicians spraying Fiesta every day for 3 months as weather permitted to try to tackle broadleaf weeds, including dandelions, clover, and black medic. We still struggle with some of the difficult grassy weeds like crabgrass, as we don't have a chemical control for them, and they're virtually impossible to eradicate. We can thank the 2009 Ontario cosmetic pesticide ban for some of that. We have increased our fertility program to try to combat some of the weed encroachment, with the goal of creating a thick and healthy lawn. This will be an ongoing battle in the future, and we thank you for your understanding, given some of the limitations with weed control. The weather this spring was beautiful, as previously mentioned. Rainfall, sunshine, and warmth. The shrubs and trees looked extra lush this season. Oh yeah, and the weeds flourished as well in the gardens. We continue to try to find some efficiencies through our practices and tried a different approach this year to the weeding of the gardens. This was an area that the survey results pinpointed that needed some improvement. This year we split up the garden crews in two people per crew, with 3 crews scattered throughout the community. We kept the same crew in each of their respective areas so they could become more familiar with the plants in the area and with the homeowner. We then broke each twosome into individuals, one concentrating on the front garden and then the others tackling the rear garden. We felt this change worked well, as your entire property would be done at once. And in the past, what we did was we would do all the front gardens first and then circle back a few weeks later to complete the rear garden. We hope we like this process. We like to continue this in the future. We feel it's a better way to maintain your yard. We do receive quite a few questions on pruning. People do have a different vision on what they would like to see their shrubs and how they would like them to look. Our belief is to prune to proper horticultural standards, generally after the shrubs have flowered, and then prune once a year for evergreens. And if you do have any special requests with pruning of certain shrubs in your garden, please communicate this through email to Wendy, our horticulturalist, as over the years she's created an extensive request list that they follow daily to ensure that we are providing up-to-date and accurate information that we have so we can produce properly. I know that I keep referring to the weather conditions throughout this presentation, but when the weather creates ideal growing conditions, my stress level decreases drastically. And this was one of those years that we didn't really have to rely as heavily on our irrigation system to make everything green. This allowed us time to continue to maintain the system as required, focusing on some of the older areas of the system that need larger repairs, such as the 2 large mainline breaks that we had this year we tackled this summer. This type of repair requires us to shut down a large portion of the system for a period of time to complete the fix. And some areas of the community the system are actually showing their age, so they do require a little bit more TLC. I would like to also remind you at this time that if you'd like to make any landscape changes or any exterior changes to your home, that we require you to fill out the approval form that's found on our website. This will ensure that any upgrades to the irrigation system will take place in a timely fashion to guarantee that there is no interruption in service. It's that time of year again too, winter, to winterize our system. This is going to take place in the end of October, on the 26th to the 28th, and we'll put some Ben-Bit reminder out about that as well. I'm sure most of you remember that significant rainfall that we had a few weeks ago. We had a total of 5.25 inches fell in a 24-hour period. This tested the limits of our stormwater management ponds, and we received quite a few calls from concerned residents. Kevin and I were on site monitoring the conditions during the event, So I just want everybody to rest assured that our ponds are designed to handle this amount of water, and there are safety measures in place so that they work properly. It does take some time to have the ponds go back to normal levels after an event like this. I'm also happy to report that the swales between homes functioned as they are designed, and they worked well, directing the bulk of the water between the homes to the storm sewers on the road. We haven't seen that amount of rain in quite a while. I'd also like to recommend that you have your sump pumps checked on a regular basis to ensure that they're working properly, as you don't want them to fail during an event like this. Lisa wanted me to touch on a few items regarding the gatehouse operations. She had 2 part-time employees resign over this season, but now she's training a new recruit to fill that void. Since the COVID restrictions have been lifted, our traffic volumes have increased significantly at the gatehouse and throughout the community. It's been great to see family and friends returning to RiverBend. We will continue to adjust our traffic calming measures as the community grows to keep everyone safe. With the return of the events at the club, Lisa and her team have been assisting the food and beverage team to collect vaccine documentation for larger events. And with the recent announcement of reopening of the US border, we anticipate an increase in home check services to residents heading south once again. Please contact Lisa to arrange a walkthrough prior to your departure to confirm the details. And it's been just over a year now since we installed the new gate system at the gatehouse. It's been working well so far. There's only been a few cars that have hit it, and there hasn't been any significant damage reported. And Lisa also wanted me to mention that some of the residents are having some difficulty with their transponder when entering the community. It's suggested that you put your transponder closer to the driver's side windshield, or just speak to the concierge and they can help you out on the proper location. And for those new to the community, I'd like to mention the video cameras placed throughout RiverBend. They allow our concierge to monitor traffic in the community, and they're able to see vehicles approaching the gate, which allows for a quicker response to for our guests and residents exiting the community. They also help me and our snow removal team as we can see the conditions remotely, and this allows for seamless deployment of our snow removal team. In addition, they also provide added security as we now have the ability to review all visitor access points, as well as the community grounds building and the golf club. We're in full swing with our fall cleanup of gardens. We'll be cutting back ornamental grasses, perennials, and prune as required. We anticipate all gardens to be put to bed for the winter in the next 3 weeks or so. We will once again offer a tree wrapping service this year. Please see this week's Bend Bits for further details. I would like to take this opportunity to recap what you can expect from our department during the winter season as well. So we monitor the conditions 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we have a threshold of 2 inches of accumulation before deploying our teams. On an event under 2 inches, we would just apply salt to the roadways. On a typical overnight snowfall of 2 inches or greater, our staff start snow removal at 2 a.m. with the roads, start cleaning the roads first, and then we will continue into the driveways once the roads have been opened up. And if you hear me banging on curbs, that's me out there, and I apologize in advance. It's early morning. We have secured the same shovel contractor as last season to clear the front step and a 4-foot path to your home. The entire process takes about 8 to 12 hours to complete and varies on the amount of accumulation. And snow removal will occur once per 24 hours, per 24-hour period to allow our staff at least 8 hours between events. We generally have a few large events with snow squalls coming off the lake, and we will continue to communicate and post updates during these events through our email. Our mandate during extreme events is to keep the roads clear for emergency vehicles. During regular events. We have 5 snow clearing units that we rotate through different starting points throughout the community to ensure the same driveways are not always the last to be cleared. And in previous years, we've offered a no ice melt waiver for your property if you don't want ice melt applied to your property. The waiver can be found on the website, and if you return it to email, or just email it back to Tara at the clubhouse, so that way we can track where to go. And we do have a little no ice melt sticker that we would put on your garage door, so our operators would know that. And we're never too far away should you require assistance throughout the winter. So on behalf of the grounds team, I'd like to thank you for the valuable feedback you provide through our annual surveys and throughout the year. We are listening, and we're trying to make changes as we need to. This information just helps us improve our conditions in the community. If you're heading south, have fun. I wish I was going there myself. For those remaining in the community, let's enjoy the winter together. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, Jerry. Thanks for your comprehensive report. Definitely your team does a wonderful job making this community look so great. So thanks for all you do and your team and Wendy and everyone else in the community grounds department. So well done. So at this point, I'd like to introduce our food and beverage manager, Sean Greco, who's definitely had his work cut out from the last 18 months. The impact on our clubhouse operations specifically has been significant. So Sean's going to touch on some of the wins we've had this year and some of the challenges and what he anticipates moving forward. So Sean, it's up to you now.
Thank you, Simon. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving weekend. Special thank you to all those that came out for our Thanksgiving dinner on Sunday. We had over 100 participate, as well as an additional 45 doing our RV Eats takeout. So it was nice to see a room full of residents and families and enjoying the holiday Sundays. So thank you for all your support with that. For my first slide, I did something similar to what I did last year. I kind of did a little bit of a timeline summary of the restrictions this past year. So you'll see all the different dates. Obviously, you can see that we certainly had some operational changes during the first half of 2021, so we can kind of continue to navigate through the COVID pandemic and the ever-changing government mandates. Fortunately, since mid-July, we've been able to maintain this current status, and we've actually seen some positive momentum, obviously, towards a return to some form of normal. 2021 year in review, although we did predict to have some continued impact from COVID in our budgeting process in 2020, the effects and the impact have been a little bit larger than we had originally estimated with the third and fourth waves. Through our budgeting process last August, we made some assumptions, and based on the information we had at that time, and although we still realized the COVID impact would be felt, we assumed some easing of restrictions in May of this year, as well as full restrictions lifted by September. So as we know now, we were slightly off on that estimation. Fortunately, we were able to rely on our experiences in 2020 to continue to provide some efficient services, such as our RB's delivery program, in addition to our enhanced health and safety procedures. Again, as we progressed through the year, it was certainly an easier year for us from 2020, as we were able to adapt to the changes and rely on some of our successes and confidence that we built up through how we reacted in the challenging 2020 year. We're very pleased with the level of support amongst our residents. We've actually had which resulted in some increased engagement. We actually seen an increase in our overall resident member spend of 33% year to date. We've seen some consistent increases, monthly increases year over year, which supports the fact that the residents' comfort levels continue to increase. It can also be attributed to the gradual resumption recently of some indoor dining resident events and functions and some other group activities. The resumption of events has also had a financial impact and positive financial impact, although this does continue to provide some unique challenges, and we've been working through a lot of those. Thank you to Lisa and her team at the Gatehouse for their assistance in how we're managing those processes. We'll continue to be challenged as we look to try to reach pre-COVID levels with our banquet revenue streams. We projected a decline actually in 2021 or 2022 of about 10% from our pre-COVID levels of 2019 banquet catering. We do feel there's still going to be some hesitancy in the large group gatherings, particularly with the weddings. And even in 2019, we saw a trend beginning with some smaller wedding groups as opposed to larger ones. So successes and challenges. 2021 continued to bring about the same and some new challenges for us in our operations. In many cases, we're able to take these on and continue to provide some of the services we created and maintained through the pandemic. The next two slides here, we're going to outline some of these successes of the past year, and also look at some of the challenges that we face and we will likely to face as we continue to roll into 2022. Our COVID response, we've been able to maintain our protocols and procedures. If anything we've learned in the last year is how to clean and all these procedures and policies and protocols. It's certainly been a different world for our team, but we're, like I said, we kind of got used to it at this point, which is nice, but still challenging. Our dining reservation policy, a couple of benefits of that. We've also obviously been able to have some consistent contact tracing if required. Fortunately, we have not required it, but it does allow us to know exactly who's in the building at what times on any given day if we need that information. And it's definitely assisted us in managing our labor effectively. Constantly changing government mandates have always caused, in the past 18 months, has caused a lot of confusion as to what's permitted and what's not. As much as we're able to rely on those experiences in 2020, new restrictions, particularly with the recent proof of full vaccination, provide some new challenges on how we operated and effectively monitored and enforce these policies. And kudos to Tara for all the work she's done in collecting that data and ensuring that our systems are up to date, and so that we know who's provide those proof of vaccination. I think it's been a great tool for our team and allows you, the residents, to submit it once and be comfortable in coming in and not having to provide that every time, which has been an excellent addition. Overall comfort level of residents towards our indoor dining. As I mentioned earlier, we were very pleased to receive the feedback on how our team has responded, whether it was through last year's survey or some conversations I've had with residents. I think everyone understands that we're continuing to prioritize the importance of keeping our residents, our members, our staff, and our guests safe. Menu variety. This is always something, a point of focus for us. Consistent menu changes throughout the year. We've been committed and successfully managed to have a kind of 4 to 5 week menu rotations and menu changes, while also increasing the number of items this year compared to prior season, particularly in the Q1 of 2021, where we may have a reduced menu in a winter period. This year we've maintained this full menu size. Our focus on seasonal items, our feature nights, particularly during the winter months with the RV's delivery. These feature nights, both during the early part of the year and during our early spring shutdown period, they proved to be successful as they allowed us to keep our residents and community engaged through some fun, unique themes, such as our successful week-long Taste of the World. Food and beverage supply chain issues. You probably hear these terms supply chain a lot in many industries right now. Minimal product availability due to COVID and other external factors. Product supply has been impacted across many industries, whether it's construction supplies, kitchen cabinets, appliances, or automobiles. We've certainly felt it in our industry. Many occasions we're finding ourselves running out of key stock items, having to remove items from certain menus because of product availability, or we're having to rely on alternative products. And sometimes those are coming at higher costs as well. Adaptability. Obviously our team has kind of been able in these last 18 months to really start thinking outside the box on how we do things. We continue to find creative ways to incorporate our food and beverage into our member golf events. We've been really fortunate to work with a great group of supportive golf committee members who understood the challenges and importance that we have, but all while also maintaining food and beverage elements to many of our golf events. And we're looking forward to some of our key events, like maybe men's and ladies member guests resuming next year as well. Consistent offering, both dine-in and takeout options with many of our feature nights, our holiday meals, and our golf-related functions. We understand there is still a fraction of people out there that are really uncomfortable with any kind of dine-in options. So we always want to, we're always conscious of the fact that we want to provide that and not exclude those people and still have those options available, which I think the residents have appreciated. Resumption of corporate events while maintaining food and beverage components through our to-go options. These events have obviously differed in many aspects this year when they did resume, but it was important for us to remain consistent and adamant in ensuring that we're still having an F&B element and subsequently a financial benefit to the community. And we were able to maintain full menu size even with supply challenges and current labor shortages, which you'll see through my presentation are two really key items right now in this industry. Increased resident engagement, continued support from the residents. We've seen some increases in our a la carte dining, as well as continued significant utilization of our RB's takeout and our grocery services, which we do project will increase again once these winter months roll around. Just as a little snapshot, our June through September, we actually saw an increase in our a la carte dining of about 25% year over year. The overall average spend per member and resident has also increased by 26% year to date, which we think are definitely a couple of positives there moving forward. Labor management and development. Hospitality industry has been significantly impacted by COVID and it's currently in a labor shortage crisis. We've seen this crisis in every aspect of hospitality, whether it's fast food, restaurants, tourism, private clubs. With numerous shutdowns, many of the staff are forced to look outside at other industries for employment, leaving the sector scrambling to hire and retain key staff. In many cases, our establishments had no other choice but to reduce. Other establishments have had no other choice but to reduce hours of operation or limit the amount of seats available in order to maintain service levels based on the staff they did have. Fortunately, we've not had to make that type of adjustment to our operation yet, and I don't foresee that happening. But the impact has certainly been felt by us as well. This current shortage is likely to have a significant impact for some time to come as well. Early spring shutdown severely impacted our training process. Although we completed most of our hiring in March, the subsequent closure at the beginning of April didn't allow us that crucial time that we have to get the hands-on training process that we always like to have in that spring period. We want to get them experience before it gets busy. And this past season wasn't the case. Obviously, once we fully opened in kind of patio in June and indoor dining in July, those are some pretty peak months as far as revenue goes. So it was definitely challenging to kind of balance the serving of our residents and members while also getting the inexperienced staff some hands-on experience. And also minimal staffing levels in 2020. We had quite a large turnover this year with some new hires. I believe we had two to three carryover staff from 2020 this year. So a big change there. And we're really hopeful that the team that we're putting in place now are going to be here for years to come, and we're going to continue to develop them as we move forward. So look ahead, we're hopeful as we progress through this stage of COVID that we continue to move towards the pre-COVID levels with little to no interruptions. We're pretty confident that with the current situation and the recent mandated vaccination policy, that we're not going to see those full closures that we've experienced in the past 2 years, and we can continue in a positive direction through winter and into 2022. This coming December, we're going to be featuring our popular festive dinner feature menu, which we've had for the past few years, as well as our festive cocktail feature menu, which has been really popular, especially during December and in our happy hour periods. As we look to ahead to 2022, we do, I know Jerry mentioned as well, we also obviously anticipate that more residents will travel down south this year as opposed to past winter. So we have looked at our hours of operation, and we felt that it really benefited us last winter to have those added services on the Tuesdays and Wednesdays that we didn't have pre-COVID. So as of now, our plan will be to be closed on Mondays. Tuesdays and Wednesday, we will have RB Eats delivery dinner service, which I know a lot of you took advantage of and was great opportunity for you to not have to brush off the car with snow, depending on where we're at, and just let us deliver it for you. And I think we have. It's definitely for our community. It's something that we have that a lot of other clubs and a lot of other managers that I talk to don't have. So I think it's definitely an area of focus for us to take advantage of some of the things that we do have in this community, as well as the gatehouse and when I referred to the vaccination checks, etc. And then Thursday through Sunday we'll have our dining and as well as the RB curbside pickup option. Food costs. This is another big one. This kind of goes hand in hand with the supply chain issues that we're currently experiencing. Experts are predicting above average increases in many categories in high volume protein items, such as your poultry, beef, pork, fish, seafood. We're all seeing some increases in all those. We have seen them thus far. We're going to continue to monitor these increases and work with our suppliers so that we can minimize any related increases to menu pricing. And then also, obviously, many of these increases can be attributed to simply a lack of supply with high demand. There's some significant concern within the industry regarding the escalating food costs. Pre-COVID annual increases are typically anywhere from 2 to 3%, but in many cases, industry experts are predicting that these same categories are going to reach between 5 and 6 as far as a percentage increase. We're already seeing many of these inflated prices this fall, which could even drive these increases further, which is definitely concerning for many people. And I'm sure a lot of you residents see it when you go to the grocery store as well. I can't emphasize enough how greatly these rising food costs and the current labor crisis is going to impact food and beverage business, not just us, but as a whole. It's certainly impacted already what's been a low profit margin model. Definitely concerning on many fronts. Staff development, we're looking forward to providing some further training and developing our current front of house and back of house teams. I think our strategy when it comes to hiring has never, has not been impacted by COVID. Our policy and our priority right now still is to get the right people with the right attitude and the right work ethic, and we can teach the skills. So that's going to always remain our strategy when it comes to our new hires, and I think our team does a great job of training and developing our staff and keeping that positive culture. We do anticipate an increase in overall new hires this coming spring as well, as we start increasing on the revenues and banquet events. Such a high demand right now with hospitality staff. It's become a job seekers market more than it ever has before. There's obviously when there's an abundance of positions available, like candidates have many opportunities to choose from, which has made for a very competitive market. And as a primarily seasonal operation, this certainly put us at a disadvantage to others. Fortunately, we've developed a strong staff culture here at the club, and that has encouraged a lot of our current staff to recommend our opportunities to others that they know. Just this past year alone, all of our new hires since July have been friends or acquaintances of the current employees. We've had a posting up since July, and we've hired 0 candidates from that posting. It's all been coming through word of mouth, through references, through their friends, etc. RB Eats curbside pickup remains a priority, and it's proven to be an efficient source of revenue and an added service to our residents, especially during off-season months. I think if someone would ask me 4 years ago, why don't you guys deliver? I would say that's not going to happen. That doesn't make any sense. I think COVID's taught us that, hey, it's not a bad idea. So I think it's really worked out well, and I think it's once again something that we really focus on as far as having that extra added value for our residents. So through our experiences, we've definitely established some a great system internally to execute our takeout and our delivery program, and I think we're going to look at some additional ways to kind of enhance the service a little bit more as well. Just in closing, just want to thank everyone. We do look forward to receiving your feedback through the upcoming survey, as well as, and not just the results, but the comments. I think we look through them all, we read them all, we really absorb them and really take them, put a lot of importance on the results and the comments and the feedback that you provide. So it's going to be our foundation for our action plan moving forward. And we are hopeful that you've enjoyed the experiences, this past year. Obviously, we're trying our best in some unique situations, and it's definitely been challenging 18 months. but we do appreciate all your continued support, words of encouragement, and your understanding as we all kind of move through this together. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. Great presentation, and definitely kudos to you and your team. You know, if it's Leslie and Alicia and Caitlin and our back of the house team, you've had to pivot and adapt to the changing landscape. Food and beverage is always a hot topic item at any club or any community, but the past 18 months has definitely been that much more challenging. So congratulations. I think you and your team definitely deserve a lot of credit. So well done. Okay, so we'll move on now to our Director of Housing Operations. Thank you, Toby Stoley, for taking the time out of your day in a very busy time for your team. But Toby's going to speak to the RiverBend development and what's taking place in his world. So, Toby, over to you.
Great, thanks, Simon. It's great to see lots of familiar names and faces on the Zoom tonight. I thought I'd start by just giving an update of the London market and give everyone a sense of how that compares to RiverBend. COVID still obviously is a real challenge. Unlike other areas of our business, we've been working all the way through. Construction was deemed, or residential construction was deemed an essential service. So we've been working straight through the pandemic, and I like Simon's line at the beginning. There is no playbook, so we've really had to adapt our processes and adjust as we move forward. Despite COVID, London residential construction market continues to be extremely strong in our region. If anybody were to tell me that at the beginning, I wouldn't have believed it. And we're actually on pace for another record-breaking year here in London. Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, CMHC, they are reporting 4,376 starts for all housing types, surpassing. So that's to this point in the year, and that is surpassing the 4,262 starts that we saw for all of 2020. And that represents the highest single year in the last 10 years. The spike in residential construction is being led by apartments. We're seeing purchasers moving towards multifamily, mostly because of affordability and the spikes that we've seen in the price of homes in the London market. But that is followed by single detached homes. The resale market also continues to be quite strong. There's been a little bit of softening in the third quarter of the year, but that's probably more seasonal than anything else. And again, still feels very strong. So factors that are affecting the market, there still is a lack of inventory in the resale market. We certainly have seen that in RiverBend. We're seeing a few resales available again, but there was a period of time when we really didn't see much at all. Out in sort of outside of RiverBend, there's been a dwindling supply of lots for home builders, which has affected supply. We're actually starting to see that here in RiverBend that I'll touch on shortly. While not present in RiverBend, investors are back in the market from the GTA in a big way, and we're getting a lot of buyers from the Toronto market moving to London. Lack of supply and growing demand in both resale and new home sales has significantly increased the average cost of a home. The peak most recently occurred in April. We hit $644,000 for the average home in London. So by way of comparison, the average price in February of 2019 just surpassed $400,000. So we've seen a $244,000 increase in just over 2 years. Now prices have dropped a little bit on average, but they were starting to pick up again in August. So I fully anticipate that trend will continue. RiverBend, sales in RiverBend, like the rest of London, have been strong as compared to 2020. Single detached in 2021, we have 11 homes sold on a budget of 12 with closings this year. And we've had 3 villas on a budget of 3, the last 3 remaining lots. We actually had 2 additional sales that would have closed this year, surpassing our budget. But because of schedules were drawn out due to COVID, material supplies and labor. So we had to move 2 of our closings into 2022. So looking into 2022, again, things continue to look good. We have projected sales with 22 closings for a total of 14. 11 of those are inside single detached homes, and we have 3 golf course lots factored into that as well. So with current sales, along with the release of the last 6 golf course lots, I've put the 16th fairway, that's actually the 15th fairway. We are starting to release those in stages, and we're able to start construction there in December. So with the current sales that we have and the release of those additional lots, we are down to approximately 21 lots altogether before build out. I was reminded we still have 1 more lot, which is the parking lot across from the presentation center, that would add to that, as well as the presentation center itself. At some point will be converted into a home. But we also have 2, since I put together this present part of the presentation, we've actually have 2 more sales. So that's a positive. But we're definitely, I'm anticipating early 2024, and my area of the business will be complete in RiverBend, and we'll be leaving everything to Jerry and Sean and Simon. So again, COVID's been a definite challenge, ongoing. We've had a number of unexpected influences on both construction and our overall schedules. Our schedules have been drawn out with the high demand in the high demand in the market has adversely affected the availability of many trades. Many supplies, the supply chain has also been a challenge, just like everywhere else. Lumber became a real issue a few months ago. And then finished wood products later, so kitchen cabinetry, engineered wood products. Most recently, we've been experiencing issues with resin and plastic-based products, like our acrylic showers. There was intense flooding in Texas back in the early spring, and most of resins and plastics in North America are come from Texas. So it's definitely affected the supply of many materials. Windows, countertops, all have been affected. Lack of supply of materials and trades is driving construction costs up considerably. Lumber in some cases tripled or even quadrupled. A 2x4 a year or 2 ago was $2. It hit $10 for a regular 2x4 a few months ago. Prices are coming down a bit in terms of lumber, but we continue to see increases in other products. So as a result, selling prices were increased through 2021, and further increases are anticipated moving into 2022. Yeah, so that brings my presentation to an end. Thanks, Simon.
Thank you, Toby. Appreciate your time tonight, and thank you for updating the community. It is an exciting time for us in the community. Great to see all these new homes being built, but great to see that last construction truck leave too. So thank you, Toby, for all your efforts. It's greatly appreciated. So
Thanks, Simon.
So next up, I'm going to introduce our Owners Council Chair, Michael Spear, who's going to speak of regards a couple Owners Council matters on who is leaving council, who's coming onto council, and also speak to some of the agenda items that him and his group have been speaking to. So Michael, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Simon, very much. Hello, everybody. I'm Mike Spear, and I've been on the Owners Council for 1 year now. This is something that I joined last October, and it's been a very good learning experience for me, as well as a great way to meet more members of the community and get to know more of the inner workings of how the clubhouse and the community are managed and moving forward. In terms of the Owners Council, we have quite a bit of changes this year. Our current members are Paul Andrews, who is 2019 to 2022. Our other current members are Sharon Bryan and Brent Shea and myself. We are the 4 members who are moving forward. The Owners Council has been a group of 9, and we currently voted to reduce that to 7 members, as we felt 9 was not really necessary, and 7 certainly fell within the terms of our leases and the size of an Owners Council. The people who left the Owners Council this year are Bob Banks, who was very involved in our infrastructure committee, Catherine Campbell-Moyer, who has been on council for 14 years and has served in many different roles, and we really appreciate and have appreciated all of her history and background in terms of how the Owners Council has worked and should work. Faith Capern left this summer. She was a longtime member of the Owners Council, and she moved out west to be closer to family this summer. Bruce Graham, excuse me, was chair of our finance committee and has helped quite a bit in helping us to improve a number of areas, which I'll get to in a bit. Brian Morris was 7 years on the council and was the previous chair, and he also was very involved in many aspects of the community and has been very helpful even after he's left, to be helpful to me in terms of knowing things that have been gone on in the past and that we need to understand. So I would really like to extend a very large thank you to our volunteers who have now left the Owners Council. All of their years of service have been very much appreciated and have certainly been helpful in helping us go through a number of transitions that the Owners Council will be continuing to go through over the next few years. So on to the new members. I would like to welcome officially to the Owners Council 3 new members, Dale Ives, Sandra Node, and Russell Petts. These 3 members are Dale and Sandra are more newer to the community, and Russell Petts has coming back to the council, has been on the council in previous years, and we're certainly glad to have that experience come back on with us. And I know from just some brief meetings with Dale and Sandra and Russell that I think we'll be looking forward to some exciting items to bring forward to Simon and Rick, to keep them hopping, I think, over the next while. And hopefully we'll be able to continue to provide good information to the members. So thank you for to the members leaving, and welcome to the new members. So on to the next slide. Just some general highlights, and I wanted to make it general highlights, and I'll explain that in terms of how the website at RiverBend works as well with the Owners Council. But in terms of what we've been doing, we've had continuing communication with residents through reports and council meeting minutes posted on the RiverBend website. We have, in most of the cases, we work through Tara to have our agenda minutes posted to the website under the Owners Council. And in most cases, we've been getting Tara to mention that the minutes are posted through BendBits, so that there is a knowledge that something new is on the website. We updated the RiverBend Reserve Fund investment policy. That's something that Bruce Graham had worked on along with some other items, but this was an important part to get our investment policy worded and organized in the same way that it operates. And this is becoming more and more important as the reserve fund is approaching larger amounts of money which need to be invested and taken care of properly. This year there was participation in the review and update of the RiverBend Reserve Fund. We have just received, after a couple of drafts, we've now received a final reserve fund study, and the Owners Council will be posting that to the Owners Council website within the next week or so, I would think, so that all members will be able to see how much is involved in what your money goes into to develop and put together a reserve fund. We have quarterly reviews with Sifton management of the financial statements of the clubhouse and community. The Owners Council receives much more detailed information, financial information, than would be received in annual audited statements that what the members would see and that would be posted. So we have an opportunity to question, observe, and give opinions on various aspects of the financial statements of the community. We have ongoing communication with SPL on various issues brought forward by residents, and in most cases, you can see those more detailed points or items brought up are in our minutes of our agenda meetings. So when we do get any feedback or questions from different members as an Owners Council, we certainly discuss it and or bring it forward to Simon if it really is in his bailiwick to respond to certain requests, issues, concerns that members bring forward. We have a continued very open relationship with SPL. We don't always necessarily agree immediately with things, but we certainly feel confident that when we bring forward any type of issue with Simon or Rick, well, we certainly get a response and an answer, not necessarily right away, but they certainly work hard to work with us to get answers to any of our concerns or member concerns. So in closing, that's sort of it from the Owners Council, and I would certainly encourage members to go to the Owners Council section of the RiverBend website if you want to get more immersed into the many details that go on with the Owners Council. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, Mike. Really appreciate your words tonight and taking the time, and definitely a thank you to Mike and the entire council, those of you who've been on council and the work that this group do. They're all volunteers. It's not the best paycheck. It's zero, and they do a lot of work on your behalf. And I definitely appreciate the respectful, professional discussions we have. As Mike said, we don't always agree on things, and that's okay. but they're always respectful. We understand each other's point of view, and we all have a common goal. And our shared goal is to make this community better. So definitely reach out if you have a question to your owners council, and just give them a thanks. Thanks for doing the work on your behalf. So thank you, Mike. So at this point, I'm going to talk about the 2021 financial review, the exciting part of the evening. So please bear with me as we go through some of the numbers. And obviously there's a lot to take in tonight, so please rewatch this video if you'd like, or even contact me personally. I'm happy to sit down with you, speak to some of our financial numbers, and definitely explain how we get to those 2022 budget numbers and also fees. So if we look at our 2021 financial review, it definitely, like, at some point, it'd be nice not to talk about COVID, and hopefully that's going to happen soon. But definitely, we have been impacted, and it's definitely challenged our teams, and definitely want to point out like the work that our teams have done to pivot, like to ensure that we have that financial sustainability. So this first slide is a positive slide. It illustrates our 2021 budget, which is a balanced budget of zero, obviously. That most of you are aware of, and what this portrays is that in the community, we are forecasting to finish 30,058, like ahead of budget, and we're also forecasting the clubhouse to finish just over $51,000, like ahead of budget. So we are 81,000 to the good. A positive value is better than budget. So again, these numbers, there's still a few months to go. There might be a few more curveballs thrown at us, but we're quite confident that we'll be in a positive position, which will be confirmed when we have our audited statements completed, which are shared with the community typically in late February. So if all goes well and we end positively, each and every household will be issued a credit at that time, which we will be sending out a communication similar to what we did last year. So so in a best case scenario, in both years of COVID, we'll be finishing in a positive position, which I know a lot of people were concerned about when this pandemic first started. So how to get those numbers? First of all, community maintenance. Again, this is going to be a little bit redundant from what Jerry had said, but our community maintenance team this year were able to start their work from the very get-go. If we rewind the clock about 18 months ago in last March when the pandemic first started, if you recall, Jerry's team as well weren't allowed to start work, only essential services, which was snow. But so his team was delayed in March 2020. This year, our teams were able to operate. They were able to start work right away. Obviously, irrigation, not as much irrigation required this year, much to the chagrin of golfers, which obviously resulted in lower pump costs. We did install some LED lighting, thanks to consultation with your owners council. This was a pretty big initiative to change all our street lights, and we've already realized some savings in hydro, like in that area. So that is a positive. As Jerry alluded to, we have realized some savings in the gatehouse due to the close proximity of staff working in close quarters in that gatehouse. But we've had to limit the number of people working together, especially with less traffic flow, less residents, less family and friends visiting the community. And last but not least, education training for our management team and supervisors has been virtual. Lots of these virtual Zoom sessions, which is slowly changing, which we anticipate in 2022 to be more of a normal year. In the clubhouse, we are projecting again to be finished better than budget by just over $51,000. With some of our clubhouse closures, we've realized some pool savings, pool maintenance, and regular pool heating and spa heating with our closures in the first and second quarter. And obviously some reduced labor costs in fitness. Definitely Kristen and our team pivoted so well in creating some virtual programming. which was well received by the community. And on that note, Kristen's trying to figure out right now like where she goes from here. And she's already garnered some interest for some of our snowbirds to maintain the winter programming by some virtual means. So there's actually some efficiencies there we realize, which Kristen's just trying to navigate through that to see what is best moving forward. Obviously, a number of large weddings and social events were canceled, reduced size to restrictions. This definitely had an impact on our food and beverage operations, which we've spoken to several times, both with council and also in this AGM. So obviously with those less events, obviously those are typically a lot more profitable than a la carte dining is. RV Eats obviously continued, was well supported by the community, which Sean spoke to. But the downside of RV Eats is the beverage sales. As much as we transition to RV delivery and RV Eats and RV pickup, which was great, unfortunately, it does impact our alcohol sales. And as most of us know from the restaurant business, that's where you can make a little more margin. So it was great seeing the food go out the door, but it was unfortunate that they weren't eating here and enjoying a nice glass of Cabernet. So we're going to have to monitor that to see what is the best way moving forward in 2022 and beyond. And obviously food costs are increasing regularly, which Sean has spoken to, but that's definitely impacted what we can deliver and that supply chain. So the 2022 budget, this kind of showcases this shows that we do have a balanced budget. It speaks to our revenues, obviously, are going to be increasing quite significantly in 2022. What you have to realize is when we start this budget process in late July and August, at that point, we have to make a number of assumptions on what we think is going to happen in the next 18 months. And in a typical year, those assumptions are based upon historical data. I think the last year and a half, we can all throw out that historical data because the landscape is changing. It's changing weekly, it's changing monthly, and we don't know the overall impact, what's going to happen this time next year. So we make our best guess, look at industry polling and experts, and we kind of based on what that banquet business is going to look at, how many people are going to be in the community this winter. And that's our starting point for all our budgeting process. For the community maintenance side, I think it's a little more consistent. We might get the odd bigger snowmageddon event, but we have historical data on what those snow events are. From the clubhouse side, the last 18 months has definitely changed. So factors moving into community maintenance for our 2022 financial overview. So for our budget, like I just mentioned, snow removal costs are pretty consistent year to year. And we have historical data on snow operations covering the last 20 years. Obviously, we do have increased houses, increased roads, increased walkways, increased driveways. But we can calculate how many snow events we have. We can extrapolate that into snow events and then budget those accordingly. Wage increases are proposed at 4%, and that's based upon there's a couple of questions that I'll address in the Q&A, but that's based upon a number of factors, which I'll speak to in the question and answer period. Salt costs, again, supply chain issues, salt costs are going up for snow. Same for chemical increase. Jerry's team had a lot of success this past year with Fiesta, that was having more success with certain types of weeds, not all weeds, but Jerry and his team definitely made some traction there. We've seen an increase in costs and again, supply chain, be it fertilizers, seed, tools, all those types of things we kind of take for granted are all going up in cost. Due to the additional homes every year, with Toby's team, we're seeing more homes built, more landscaping required. So obviously, every few years we'll add a gardener or position to ensure that we're addressing your services. And hydro and water increases, definitely expected based upon our data and based upon what we know in industry. We are anticipating a 5% increase in both hydro and water. Clubhouse factors. We anticipate the clubhouse operations will not be interrupted during the 2022 year. It is an assumption. We're not sure if that's going to happen, but that was our starting point on what we anticipate for 2022. And this will also like simulate if it's fitness revenues. We anticipate Kristen and her team having some more classes, some more group sessions. Probably not till Q2, perhaps Q3. But that is definitely something that people are interested in, people want. So we're just trying to figure out when that best timing is and when we can legally do it with the space we have. Hydro and water always spoken to, and also in the anticipated wage increase. Increased banquet and catering events. Obviously, that's going to ramp up. We are seeing more events being booked. I think with the province-wide regulations in regards to vaccinations, we've now seen conveners more open to having events, which is good to see. But we are seeing a trend of smaller events. So again, subsequently, we have to budget those accordingly based upon how many heads we're expecting. Not just how many weddings we're going to have and what time of year, but also what numbers we hope to have for those events. Clubhouse cleaning. That's going to be a staple, I think, for many years to come. That's not going to change in regards to what protocols are going to be required. And as Sean mentioned, a number of new themed dining events. Dining service we offer the club Thursday through Sunday. Our RB Eats for dinner on Tuesday and Wednesday through the first quarter of 2022. And obviously RB Grocery, another great new initiative. If you don't want to go get groceries in mid-January in the snow, that's a great service that Sean and Kirk's team have provided. So 2022 budget calculations. So again, bear with me. It's a little complicated. And this is something that we do review with your owners council. So I think our owners council is also very well versed in this. But any questions, please let me know in the coming days. So when we calculate our budget, we base upon how many homes there will be in the community when we are built out, which is going to be in the next 2 to 3 years, it looks like. So our number at this point is going to be 489. That's how many homes we will have at build out. So to calculate what the monthly fee would be, you have to have the 489 homes times 12 months, gives us 5,868 months that residents are paying on a monthly basis. Then we have to calculate what we're going to start at. So as of January 1st, 2022, we anticipate, along some houses close in the next few months, we'll have 451 homes to start. So we'll have 451 homes occupied at 12 months. So we have 5,412 months that residents are paying on a monthly basis for community maintenance and clubhouse operations. Then we look at what our anticipated home sales are. So we have to anticipate how many partial months that will be also paying into these monthly fees. So when Toby does his budget, he provides to me and our team, not just his number of homes he'll be selling, but also when he anticipates homes are going to close. So I think that's kind of like a dartboard these days for Toby, but that obviously if a house moves in February, it's going to be a lot different for a budget than if it moves in November. So that's the partial months, the 57 partial months plus the 5,412 months, the grand total of 5,469 months contributing in 2022. So budget calculations, community maintenance, what we do is look at the total direct expenses, which is just under $1.5 million, plus a G&A expenses, less other revenue, which if it could be tree wrapping or so on and so forth. Also, in addition to that is the villa discount. Villas do pay less, $25 less per month in community maintenance due to the square footage that is being maintained. So that's your total expenses of $1,755,206 divided by the total months that we just had in the last screen, 5,469, and that is your 2022 monthly fee, $320.94, which is an increase of 2.9% over 2021. Now we look at the clubhouse food and beverage operations. So we look at our total revenue, lesser expenses than G&A, and we have a shortfall we're anticipating next year of $336,000. Again, based upon what we anticipate for events and group business, which is going to be probably still limited in the first quarter to next year. Again, divided by the total months paid, 5,469 is your food and beverage monthly fee of $61.60, which is actually a decrease from 2021 of 3.3%. So definitely trending in the right direction, and hopefully less of a COVID impact, and obviously more events are the main contributors to that lesser fee. So then we look at the total clubhouse calculation, as your fees are divided into two: community maintenance and also clubhouse. So we look at our total direct expenses less the F&B expenses, total G&A expenses less F&B expenses, plus the other revenue. There's a total cost of just over $687,000. Again, that's divided by the total months when full of 5,868. And that equates to your total monthly fee of $117.09, plus your food and beverage deficit fee of $61.60, for a total monthly fee of $178.69, which is a net increase of 2.2%. Now, this is the big page, which the 2022 fees, which we have already provided to you in advance, which we provided to you in October 1st, as per the terms of your lease. SPL has to provide you any fee increases within 9 days of the end of the calendar year. So these are your fees for next year, and it shows you the community fee for singles and villas, obviously the $25 differential that we talked about, plus the clubhouse fee, plus your clubhouse and community like reserve fund fees, which Mike Spear from council so eloquently spoke to. And those numbers are derived from our reserve fund audit from a third party, K-Smart, and they update our reserve fund on a continual basis. So the overall fee next year for a single is $543.06, and for a villa it's $518.06. So again, that total increase for next year equates to 2.9% increase year over year. If we take out the reserve fund, so if we just speak to the operating increase, so the operational increases equates to 2.2% increase. So those are your fees for 2022. Okay, so that is the end of the presentations. I know there's been a number of questions in the chat, so I'm just going to quickly, here we go. Bear with me for 1 second here. Okay. Okay, so I had one question in advance, which I'm going to speak to first. Okay, so the question came from Bill and Jerry Heisman, and the question was, Simon, I see the wage increase this year is 4%. Last year it was 3%. Why the increase? Last year, when asked about the wage increase of 3%, the answer was based upon other similar clubs and retaining staff. Does RiverBend/Sifton have any documentation to support a 3 or 4% increase? Is there any job performance expectations to warrant a yearly increase across the board? So great question, and thank you, Bill and Jerry Heisman. And I know there was a couple of similar questions in the chat. So yes, we're definitely seeing a labor issue, not just at RiverBend. We're seeing a labor issue in all industries. But as Sean spoke to, specifically hospitality. I was actually in Montreal last week for a conference, and I was shocked at the number of restaurants that were closed on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday nights. And they had a sign on their door saying, sorry, due to no staff, we'll be just open Friday, Saturday. So, and that's downtown Montreal. So definitely a concern. So what Sifton does with this information is we look at industry polls, we look at industry averages and industry surveys, and what we've discovered over the past 6 months is that they're anticipating in this type of business 3 to 7% increases in 2022, which is higher than I've ever seen in my career. But definitely, what we want to do is position ourselves in the marketplace so we are still an attractive employer. We are by no means on the high end. I can trust me on that one. But we do want to make sure we have the ability to attract more employees. So and the second part of that question is performance reviews. Yes, all our full-time employees and our seasonal employees go through regular performance reviews, and there are measurables put in place based upon their performance, based upon what measurables they have in place, and also KPIs, which are key performance indicators that measure how they are doing against budget. So yes, Jerry, Bill, there are steps in place. It is above the average increase, but definitely something that you'll see in all industries, and especially hospitality, where we are going to have concerns unless we get ahead of this. So thank you for the question, Bill and Jerry Heisman. I'm just going to go back. So again, if you have any more questions, please feel free to put in the chat. There's a couple here which I'll address, and I'll pass over to someone else if they have it. So just bear with me as I scroll through. Okay. Go. A question from Brian Davey. What's happening with the property beside the gatehouse? A bit of an eyesore. Yes, it is, Brian. So that, just so everyone knows what Brian's talking about, that is the property right beside the gatehouse, which actually Sifton originally owned. Then several years ago, we sold off that piece of property. It is zoned for commercial use to a third party, and they are currently trying to lease that area in a commercial way. Like, we did provide them some architectural drawings of what we want that area to look like. But question B to that is no, Sifton's not going to repurchase that land. We do speak to that landlord on a semi-regular basis to make sure it's kept up to date and also maintained. And it's also a pretty difficult process to even change that kind of block from a commercial to a housing development. So again, no update today. We're hopeful it does sell soon. I think with it's all based upon density, is my rudimentary understanding of commercial leasing. And as West 5 develops and we see more people in the area, I think you'll see some specific types of commercial which is allowed in that space get developed. So thank you for the question, Brian. And once we do have any further update on that, we will definitely let your council and the community know. Ken Aitchison question, how do you justify the 4% salary increase budget with what is happening in the country with respect to CCPI? I think I've addressed that question. If I haven't, Ken, totally, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Question from Brent Shea. SBL position related to lease renewals at the 49-year point. Some residents now have been here 20 years, and should they sell to a person in their low 50s, it is reasonable to anticipate an inquiry related to renewal when those buyers are in their late 70s. No stated position could impact the sale to those buyers. So definitely a great question, Brent, and we have kind of started to have those conversations, not just with your council, but also with our legal and also accounting gurus to ensure that that process is clearly laid out in a legal way, so there's no exposure to the community or residents who are trying to sell their houses. But I think we're very aware that once those houses do start going to market and they have, let's call it less than 20 years left of their land lease, obviously that's something that's going to be a question for all purchasers. So yes, a lot of work being done behind the scenes there. It is a standing agenda item that Rick and I have to ensure that we will be able to communicate that to the community, so that people will be rest assured that that process will be seamless and there won't be issues for those who are trying to sell their home. Another question from Ken Aitchison again. Since you have an extensive list of landscaping requests, do the residents with the extensive requests pay more for their services? Good question, Ken. So two parts to that answer. I would say like the first part of that answer is like relates to what I discussed in the financial discussion in regards to it's all about square footage, first of all. That is why our villas pay $25 less per month than a single. So that's part A. But Ken is very right. Some people have a lot bigger landscaping than smaller landscaping. So is that equitable? And it is something that we've discussed at length. It's actually something that we've discussed with your owners council. But I think we have to keep in mind there is the people who actually all these new applications and these new landscaping are typically for new homeowners. And they're typically small plantings, small landscaping plants, and actually don't take as much work as people who've been here for 10, 15, 20 years who have these massive growth where they now have to have a lot of cutting back. So I think you have to be careful what you wish for there, because the people who've been longstanding residents might actually require more than these new plans. So definitely something that we will keep in mind for further discussion. But at this point, it's the villas who do pay the $25 less per month. Let's keep on scrolling here. Ken Hitchson question. What would the financial impact on residents be if only weddings allowed with those actually sponsored and attended by a resident? Good question. And this has actually come up at length with your owners council, and it's still like an item that is going to be on future agendas. So just to give a little background on this, every event that we have in this building is sponsored by a resident. Every single one of them has a name from a resident attached to it. So why do we have these events? Because selfishly, if you ask Sean or ask myself, selfishly, I think our life would be much easier if we didn't have these events. It'd be wonderful if we could just totally focus on member dining. So why do we have them? Well, we have them because they have significantly better margins than a la carte. And we do it because in the club industry, which is our closest measurable. Again, I know we're a community, we're not a club, but our closest comparator is the club industry. And of my colleagues, I'd say 98% of clubs have events. 98% of clubs have weddings. So, and they do it to ensure that the fees for their members or fees for their residents are subsidized. And the only clubs that don't have those weddings, the only clubs that don't have events are the very high-end Red Tails, or you might have like a very high-end, like the National Golf Club, where they can just charge their members $12,000 a year and just hide it under. And I don't think our community wants that. At least that's my understanding. I know Mike Spear and I have kind of gone back and forth on this, and it will be discussed at length again with your owners council. But I think the majority of the residents would much rather be slightly inconvenienced for 6 or 8 days, nights a year, while we still have some dining available in the library, then all of a sudden see their monthly fees go up a lot higher. So if I'm wrong, please let me know, because Sean and I would love it. Great question, Ken. Another question from Ken Hitchson. What would the financial impact be on golf members if tournaments were not allowed? I think there's two parts of that, where from a Sifton perspective, I would say we have 5 events per year plus Sifton event, which is 6, and we've always only had those maximum 6 events. And I think from Sifton's point of view, and Rick will say if I'm wrong here, it's very important for a 3rd generation family company to give back to the community. And we are very selective on the charities that we support. We don't take any tournaments just because. I think the London Home Bill Association approached us like a couple years ago, and like a few years ago, and I think Richard was actually on the board at that point. He said, no, I don't want them at our club. So it wasn't the type of event or charity that we think fit with our demographic, fit with what Sifton wants to support. So that's one side of the equation. Is I think it's very important for the company to support these local charities. From a financial side, I would say it's marginal. I would say the benefit is more so on the event side, where it's another set of dinners, more lunches, more alcohol consumed, which again subsidizes your monthly fees. So again, I think it's something that we'll always want to do, Sifton, always want to give back to the local community. And again, for the 5 days a year, I don't know if the average member would want to see their member fees increase. So, okay, another question here, Dennis Crane, what do you anticipate will be the increase in wages to maintain staffing? So I think we kind of addressed that already. Question from Mike and Lise, shouldn't there be sold signs in the lots sold in RiverBend? That's a great question, Mike. I think, again, we don't have a lot of big traffic flow driving around like a regular community. Out in the regular community, I think you see people driving around, and they see these sold signs. Like, we don't allow people just to drive in here. So I think the only people you're going to see who it might appease are people who are living in the community. So definitely something I will pass on to our new homes team to see if there's any merit to put those sold signs on. Question from Ken Aitchison. You should call me tomorrow, Ken. I think there's lots of great questions here, but please feel free to. I'd be happy to talk to you at any time. Can you update the apartment condo build near the clubhouse? So again, for everyone's, this is a good question. The original plan for RiverBend, the community, is we are zoned, I believe, for 2 8-story apartment buildings right across from the clubhouse, right to my left, in between the 10th hole and the clubhouse. That has always been the plan, is to have those 2 8-story buildings. It will likely be 2, but it's going to be market driven. I think the company has always maintained that if and when that happens, we'll have to look at the marketplace. If it happens, like, we're not even sure if it's going to be a condo style or if it's going to be an apartment style. Obviously, there's been so much change in West London in the last number of years now with the West 5 development and the influx of people who are looking at condos. We do have a list of people who are interested. I think for people who live here looking at downsizing, we've already started to maintain a list. So again, but the plan was always to have that built when our last single or villa has been built. So it's still in the plans. We've had some preliminary drawings to make it look appeasing from both the clubhouse point of view and also from the 10th hole. But again, it'll be market driven once we are built out in the next 2 to 3 years. Question from David Durham. Is there a plan to increase the F&B minimum in order to better balance the allocation of the clubhouse expenses? This is a great question, David, where I think F&B minimums about 5 years ago, might be longer, we actually doubled our F&B minimum from $450 a household to $900 a household, which has definitely helped. I think it's got more participation, but as most clubhouses, again, the overall net, you're not going to just eliminate the deficit by just having people spend more. Like, you're not, unfortunately. It just doesn't happen. I think with more events and weddings, that is a possibility. And I think we want to be equitable. So I think what we try to maintain here is to make sure that we are competitive with similar type facilities, and making sure that minimum spend is equitable, so people utilize facility. Which I think David's point is, hey, I'm someone who's in here a lot. Why am I subsidizing someone who's here not as much? And that's a great question, David. It's something that is continually something that we're talking about. I know it's come up several times with Owners Council, F&B minimum, and I'm sure it's something that we will discuss again. But there's no plans today to have any changes to that. Okay, Ken Aitchison question. Have K-Smart certified that both the reserve funds are adequately funded at this point in time? And does the Owners Council agree with this position? Mike, do you want to speak to this briefly about what Owners Council view is on the reserve funds funded? Sure.
And thank you for the question, Ken. And it was an enjoyable time golfing with you last week, my first time meeting with Ken. The reserve fund has significantly improved over the last 5 to 6 years. Prior to 2013, there was a very minimal amount going into the reserve fund, plus less members here. So the reserve fund was significantly lower, and I would say underfunded back at that time. But over the past 5 to 6 years, the Owners Council has recommended a very conservative approach to looking at interest rates and looking at funding the community and the clubhouse so that the reserve fund improves. To give you a specific answer, one of the things that shows in the reserve fund study, which everybody will have access to shortly, is that the The clubhouse has a relative strength of funding at about 38%, and the community, I believe, at about 24%. So our overall relative strength is right around the 30% level. And generally speaking, communities that are between 30 and 70% funded are considered to be fairly well funded. And the Owners Council expects the relative strength to improve to up to 45 or 50% within the next 5 years or so, which would put us in a strong position now and in the future to eliminate any needs for special assessments, which is one of the big reasons why we want to have a reserve fund that's adequately funded. So yes, the Owners Council has seen that the reserve fund is much better funded, and we're quite pleased with how it's going.
Thanks, Mike. And I think from SBL's perspective, definitely that's something that we speak to council about, and definitely get council's recommendation on what those fees are each year. And I think we are in a significantly better position now than we were several years ago. So I think we are tracking the right way. And I think, speaking on behalf of Sifton, I think we are in a very positive position. Question from Catherine Pike Walters. Simon, can you speak to vaccination stats and vaccination requirements for Sifton staff? So great question, Catherine. And I think over the last month, this has been a very complicated matter. And it's definitely like an emotional discussion, but it's also something that is top of mind for everyone. And I think when the province mandated these vaccine passports as of September 22nd, which I personally think was a fantastic idea, and we've definitely got a very, very high attraction rate in the community. What surprised the hospitality business was that they didn't mandate it for the private sector, for employees, or for employers, which definitely put the private sector in a difficult position. Subsequently, we've sought out legal opinion in this a number of times in the past few months to better understand what exposure we have and what choices we have. And I know there's some companies who've done different things, and I think it's all over the map. And I think legal opinion on it is also very diverse too. But what Sifton's done over the last, I would say, 4 or 5 months is really educate our staff and to try to get as many staff who are on the fence to get vaccinated, which we've had a lot of success with. And that's through one-on-one discussions with our managers, with myself, and even through educational seminars that we've actually sent some staff into, because I think it is critical to have those front customer-facing staff vaccinated. So thankfully, what we did here at RiverBend is we made every employee declare what their vaccination stance is. And as of today, we're actually at a 97% employee vaccination rate, which I think is wonderful. And it would actually be about 98.5%, 99% if you included those who are actually in the process. So the 97% are people who are classified as fully vaccinated, who have had their second vaccination a minimum of 14 days ago. So and what we've also done is since October 1st is ensured that any customer-facing employee must be fully vaccinated to have any kind of interaction with a resident. Because I know there are, even though our staff do have PPE, even though they have masks, even though they have to self-assess, even though they have to wash and cleanse, even though I think you're actually going to have a worse day at Remark, rubbing shoulders with people in there. Even in spite that, I definitely understand residents' trepidation. So I think we're definitely on the right track. And there's no doubt, if you ask Sifton, again, I shouldn't speak out of turn, but I think Sifton definitely wants everyone fully vaccinated. That is Sifton's goal. But you have to remember that 100% is not even a possibility for any industry or any sector. Let's be clear, 100% is not possible, just based upon accommodations. Just based upon medical and religious accommodations, 100% is not an option. So again, thankfully, I think we're in a really good position, and I think ultimately from a systems perspective, I think we have an obligation to maintain a very safe environment, which I believe our team has done extremely well in the last 18 months. But we also have to minimize any financial exposure, any financial risk to not just the company, but also to the community at large. We're all in this together, for better or worse. So again, we're on the right track. Great question, Catherine. And again, if someone has follow-up questions to that, please don't hesitate to call me at your convenience. So just one last question, Simon. I hear what you say. This is from Ken Easton. I hear what you say about the impact of weddings on finances, but you have not answered the question specifically. I wonder if you actually provided a number and asked what residents, what they thought, what answer you might get. So yeah, I mean, I think that's something that we've actually been talking about in council, and that's something that council is thinking about posing that question at some point. I don't want to speak, put words in Mike's mouth, but it is a discussion point. It is an agenda item. I personally don't think people will want their fees going increases. That's what I'm hearing. But yeah, I mean, if people want it, we're happy to go that route. But I think you might be interested in the feedback we get. So Mike, do you want to touch on that at all? Or you?
Well, I can touch on a number of queries and discussions we've had going back and forth on this. Number one, Simon, there was a review done by the Owners Council. I believe it was before the 2019 change. The numbers used were provided by the financial statements with Sean breaking down profitability in different areas, and I welcome members to go to the Owners Council documents. The document is there indicating the financial benefits of the different types of events that happen at the clubhouse. We did discuss with Simon and Sean going forward and looking at a kind of a net profitability analysis, and we decided that the time to do that is probably when we have a normal year. Trying to go through it during the last 2 years wouldn't really have provided us a benefit on that end. In terms of discussions with various members about events, the majority of members I've spoken to prefer to have events that lower their costs as a general rule, whether it's largely profitable or somewhat profitable. But I do think that over the last 2 years, the issue about events has been more of a concern. And I think from the discussions I've had with different members, a lot of it has been driven with the concern around the virus, as opposed to the concern around whether or not the clubhouse is being utilized in a profitable way. So I think those are my comments on that subject at this point, Simon.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. And I thank you all for the questions. That appears to be the end of the questions, but I definitely want to, first of all, thank all the panelists today, all the speakers, Jerry Hackers, Sean Greco, Toby Stoley, and Mike Spear. And thank you all for taking the time to hear us out tonight. We really appreciate your support of the community. We really appreciate your interest. We really appreciate your questions. And if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us. So again, thank you all for attending tonight. Thank you for being on the call, and best wishes to you and your family this winter, wherever you reside. And we look forward to seeing you all soon, hopefully in a more normal environment. So thanks again, and have a good night.